Welcome to Heartline Stories. Today's story follows a young mom, Laura, struggling to make ends meet, unaware that her life is about to change forever. When a mysterious encounter with a stranger leads to an unexpected offer, her world flips upside down. But the stranger isn't just anyone. He's a powerful CEO with a life-changing opportunity. What happens next will leave you speechless. Will Laura's life turn around, or will she miss her shot? Keep watching to find out what happens when a simple act of kindness changes everything, and let us know where you're watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It was a busy Saturday evening, and Laura and her 8-year-old son, Tommy, were sitting in a cozy little restaurant in downtown New York. Tommy loved to people watch and often pointed out things he noticed to his mom. They had just finished their meal and were waiting for dessert. As they sat at the table near the window, Tommy suddenly nudged his mom. "Mom," he whispered, "that man over there has been staring at you for a really long time." Laura turned around, confused. She didn't recognize anyone in the restaurant except for the staff. She looked at the man Tommy was pointing at. The man was sitting alone at a table across the room, wearing a dark suit and looking down at his phone. He had short black hair and glasses, and there was something oddly familiar about him. He seemed deep in thought, but occasionally looked up. Tommy's eyes were glued to him, and he whispered again, "Mom, he's been staring at you for a while now. Is he your friend?" Laura laughed softly and shrugged it off. "Oh, sweetie, I'm sure he's just thinking about something. People don't always realize when they stare." But Tommy wasn't convinced. "I don't know, Mom. He keeps looking at you and not at his food." Laura chuckled and took a sip of her water. Just as she was about to tell Tommy to stop being silly, the man stood up and began walking toward their table. Tommy's eyes widened. "Oh, Mom, he's coming over here." Before Laura could react, the man was right beside their table, a soft smile on his face. "Excuse me, I couldn't help but overhear your conversation," he said, looking directly at Tommy. "You seem to have a good eye for details." Laura was about to say something when the man turned to her, his expression changing slightly. "I'm sorry to interrupt your evening, but I have to say, you remind me so much of someone I knew a long time ago." Laura felt a sudden chill. "Who?" she asked, curious but cautious. The man paused for a moment, as though gathering his words. "My name is Eric Wilder. I'm the CEO of Wilder Enterprises," he said, his voice low. "And while I don't usually interrupt people like this, there's something about you that caught my attention." Tommy looked at his mom, his curiosity growing, and whispered, "Mom, you know who he is, right?" Laura blinked, still unsure of how to respond. "Eric Wilder." The name sounded familiar. Wilder Enterprises was one of the biggest companies in the country, and Eric Wilder was known for being one of the wealthiest men alive. Eric smiled warmly, sensing her confusion. "I don't expect you to remember me. We met a long time ago, at a charity event. You were working for one of my colleagues and we talked briefly. It was years ago, but when I saw you here tonight, I couldn't help but think back to that day." Laura's heart raced. She had attended so many events in her past, working as a consultant for big companies, but she didn't remember meeting anyone like Eric. "Wow," Laura said slowly, still processing the information. That's a coincidence." Eric's smile softened. "It's not just coincidence, actually. I've been keeping an eye on you for a different reason. You see, I've always admired the way you handled yourself at that event. You were so kind, genuine, and, if I may say, beautiful. And over the years, I've wondered what happened to you." Tommy's eyes widened as he glanced at his mom. "Mom, this guy's a billionaire. Is he a friend of yours?" Laura felt a little embarrassed but smiled awkwardly. "I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding, Tommy." Eric chuckled. "I know this must seem odd, but I have a proposition for you." Tommy tugged at his mom's sleeve. "Mom, what's a proposition?" Laura looked at him, then at Eric. "What kind of proposition?" Eric took a seat next to their table without waiting for an answer. "I'm looking for a personal assistant, someone who has the same qualities I saw in you years ago. Someone who isn't just looking for money but who truly values kindness, integrity, and hard work. I've been doing some research, and I believe you're the right fit." Laura was stunned. She had never imagined someone like Eric Wilder would be interested in offering her a job. Eric continued, I can't promise it will be easy, but I can promise you will be well compensated and respected. I believe you could have a significant impact not just on my company, but on my personal life as well. I've never met anyone like you. Tommy was still staring at Eric in awe. Mom, you have to take it. A billionaire wants to hire you. Laura blinked, unsure how to process this strange turn of events. She had been trying to find steady work after her last job ended. But this was something she had never expected. Laura took a deep breath, still trying to wrap her head around the situation. She had always worked hard for everything she had, but the idea of working for one of the richest men in the world felt surreal. I, I don't know what to say, she stammered, glancing at Tommy, who was practically jumping in his seat. I'm just a regular person, Mr. Wilder. I don't think I'm the right fit for a job like that. Eric smiled kindly. You'd be surprised. People like you, who understand what truly matters, family, honesty, respect, are rare. I've seen many with big degrees and impressive resumes, but few have what you have. I think you'd be a perfect fit. Laura was speechless. She didn't want to disappoint Tommy, who had been waiting for her to make a decision. But at the same time, she was torn. She had always been skeptical about offers that seemed too good to be true, and this felt too good to be true. Eric gave her a moment to think. Look, he said, I'm not asking for an answer right away. I just want you to consider it. There's no pressure, but you'll never know until you take that first step. Tommy looked up at Laura with wide eyes, almost pleading. Mom, you can do it. You always tell me to never give up and to take chances. Laura smiled at her son. She knew Tommy was right. She always told him to take risks and follow his dreams. But this was a huge decision. Working for a billionaire wasn't just about the job. It was about how her life would change and how it would affect Tommy. All right, Laura said slowly, still unsure of what she was getting into. I'll think about it. But I need some time to figure things out. Eric stood up, nodding. Take all the time you need. Here's my card. Call me when you're ready. He smiled at Tommy. And it was a pleasure meeting you, young man. You're a lucky boy to have such a wonderful mom. Tommy grinned back at him. Thanks, Mr. Wilder. I think you're pretty cool. With that, Eric turned and left the restaurant, leaving Laura and Tommy alone, both filled with excitement and uncertainty. As they walked out of the restaurant, Tommy couldn't stop talking about the incredible turn of events. Mom, can you believe it? A billionaire just asked you to work for him. This is huge. Laura laughed softly, though her mind was racing. I know, Tommy, but I want you to understand. It's not just about the money. This is about making the right choice for us, for our future. Tommy nodded, though he was still bubbling with excitement. Do you think we're going to be rich now? I don't know, sweetheart, Laura replied, smiling. But I do know one thing. We're going to be okay, and that's what matters. As they got into their car, the weight of the decision ahead settled over Laura. She had always taught Tommy that success wasn't about wealth, but about doing the right thing. Yet now she was standing at a crossroads. Was this the right opportunity for her and her son? Could she trust someone like Eric Wilder? Only time would tell. But as the car rolled down the road, Laura couldn't help but wonder what kind of life awaited her if she said yes. The days after meeting Eric Wilder were a blur for Laura. She couldn't stop thinking about his offer. On one hand, the idea of working for a billionaire, someone who seemed to see potential in her, was tempting. But on the other hand, the fear of change and the unknown kept her hesitating. Tommy, as always, was her biggest cheerleader. Every day he would bring up the offer, asking her if she had made a decision yet. Mom, do you think Mr. Wilder's going to help us? He'd ask, his wide eyes full of hope. Laura would smile and pat his head, trying to reassure him. I'm thinking about it, sweetie. I just want to make sure it's the right choice for us. But even with Tommy's encouragement, the uncertainty was heavy on her shoulders. What if the job turned out to be too much for her? What if she couldn't keep up? What if Eric was just playing with her to get something from her? The questions seemed endless. One evening, after putting Tommy to bed, Laura sat at the kitchen table, staring at the business card Eric had given her. She had told herself she'd call him by now, but each time she picked up the phone, her nerves got the best of her. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was too good to be true. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "Hi, Laura. It's Eric Wilder. I know we haven't spoken since our meeting, but I wanted to check in and see if you had any questions. I'd love to discuss this opportunity with you further when you're ready. No pressure. Take care." Laura stared at the message for a moment, her heart racing. He wasn't pressuring her, but the fact that he had followed up with such care made her feel both relieved and anxious. Was she ready to take that step? Her fingers hovered over the phone screen as she debated. She had always believed in taking chances, in pushing herself to be better. But was this the right chance? Was she ready to leave her comfort zone for something that could change everything? The phone buzzed again, this time with a notification from her bank. She glanced at it absent-mindedly, but then her eyes widened. There was a deposit notification. An unexpected amount of money had just been transferred into her account. Her heart skipped a beat. The deposit wasn't from anyone she recognized. It was from a company with a name she didn't even know. Laura quickly opened her banking app, trying to make sense of the mysterious deposit. It didn't seem to add up, and she wasn't sure what it meant. But just as she was about to call the bank, her phone buzzed again. It was Eric sending her a new message. "I hope I'm not being too forward, Laura, but I just wanted to tell you that I believe in you. I know you're worried about making the right choice, and I understand that. But whatever you decide, I'll support you." Laura put the phone down on the table, her mind spinning. What was going on? The money was definitely tied to him, but why would he transfer money into her account without asking her first? What did he want from her? Her heart beat faster as she realized one thing. She couldn't put this off any longer. She had to find out the truth. She had to know if this offer was real or if she was just being swept into something she didn't understand. Taking a deep breath, she picked up her phone and typed a message back to Eric. "I appreciate your patience, Eric. I'd like to talk more about the job, but I have some questions before I make my decision. Can we meet again?" She hesitated for a moment before hitting send. As soon as she did, her phone buzzed again. The message was short and simple. "Of course. I'll make arrangements. Let me know when you're available." Laura sat back in her chair, her heart racing. This was it. She was about to take a big step. She wasn't sure where it would lead, but she knew one thing. It was going to change everything. The next morning, Laura woke up with a mix of excitement and nerves. She had just made a decision that could alter the course of her life, and she had no idea what would happen next. She quickly got Tommy ready for school, her mind still on the upcoming meeting with Eric Wilder. When Tommy was settled in class, she headed to the cafe where Eric had asked her to meet. As she walked in, she spotted him immediately. He was sitting at a corner table, looking calm and confident, but with a welcoming smile. "Good to see you again, Laura," he said as he stood up to greet her. "Thanks for meeting me," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. They sat down, and for the first time, she noticed the warmth in his eyes, the kind that showed he wasn't just trying to sell her a job, but genuinely cared about her well-being. "Before we talk business," Eric said, "I want you to know that everything I've offered is real. I believe in you, Laura. I see your potential." She felt the weight of his words. She had been hesitant, afraid to trust someone she barely knew, but something about him made her believe. "I've thought a lot about your offer," Laura said, "and I have to admit, the idea of starting over, of doing something that challenges me, is terrifying. But I'm willing to take that leap." Eric smiled. "I knew you would. And don't worry about the money. I've already arranged for you to have everything you need to get started. I believe in long-term success, not just quick fixes." The conversation shifted to the details of the job. It was everything she had dreamed of, but never thought she could achieve. And the money that had been deposited in her account? It was her signing bonus, Eric explained, meant to help her transition into her new role without any stress. "I want you to focus on your work, not on the worry," Eric said. "You've earned it." Laura felt a wave of relief. The job wasn't just an opportunity, it was the beginning of a new life, one where she could make a difference. Not only for herself, but for Tommy, too. She didn't know exactly what the future held, but she knew she was on the right path. By the time the meeting ended, Laura was no longer the unsure woman who had walked in. She was someone ready to take on the world, someone who had the chance to make her dreams come true. She left the cafe with a new sense of purpose, her heart filled with hope for the future. And as she looked down at her phone, she saw a message from Tommy's school. "Your son's teacher has praised his progress. He's doing great." The smile that spread across her face was pure joy. Not only was her career about to change, but Tommy's life was too. Everything was falling into place.